ओम ज्ञानम तिमिरंधस्य ज्ञानांजनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वरूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्री गुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्री गुरु वैष्णवं च श्री रूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथं तं सजीवं सावधेदं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण प्रदान सहगण ललिता विशाखावितं च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवती पार्षदेश तारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपेकांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। यस प्रभु जी, स्क्रीन विजिबल है प्रभु जी? यस प्रभु जी, एक बार आप असाइन कर दीजिए।
हाँ तो कल
मैं बना था और ईशु प्रभु थे। अभी
इधर माता जी श्रीला प्रभुपाद, और जिसके साथ बात कर रहे हैं श्रीला प्रभुपाद, वो कनक माता जी बन सकती है।
ओके
ठीक है माता जी, both of you are fine, huh? Anushka माता जी and कनक माता जी?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so you guys can continue. We'll go on mute.
Anushka माता जी, please.
Hare Krishna. Yes, it is just like a motor car. Just as you go from one place to another in a car, so due to mental concoction in a material condition of life, we are going from one position to another, trying to become happy. But nothing will make us happy unless we come to a real position, which is that we are all parts and parcels of God, and that our real business is to associate with God and help all living entities by cooperating with Him. Civilized human life is attained only after a long evolution through 84 lakh species of life. So, if we don't take advantage of this civilized human life to understand who God is, who we are, and and what our relationship is, but instead simply waste our life like cats and dogs, going here and there looking for sense gratification, then we will have missed a great opportunity. The Krishna conscious movement is meant to teach people how to take full advantage of the human form of life by trying to understand God and our relationship with Him.
If we don't make the most of this life, do we get a second chance in another life?
Yes, according to your desires, at the time of death, you get another body. That body is not guaranteed to be a human body. However, as I have already explained, there are 84 lakhs different forms of life. You can enter any of them according to your mental condition at death. What we think of at the time of death depends on how we act during our life. As long as we are in material consciousness, our actions are in control of the material nature, which is being conducted in three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. These modes are like the three basic colors: yellow, red, and blue. Just as one can mix red, yellow, and blue to produce millions of colors, the modes of nature are being mixed to produce many varieties of life. To stop the repetition of birth and death in different forms of life, we must transcend the covering of material nature and come to the platform of pure consciousness. But if we do not learn the transcendental science of Krishna consciousness, then at death we must transfer to another body, either better or worse than our present one. If we cultivate the mode of goodness, then we are promoted to the higher planet where there is a better standard of life. If we cultivate the mode of passion, then we will remain at the present stage. But if out of ignorance we commit sinful activities and violate nature's laws, then we will be degraded to or plant life. Then again, we must evolve to the human form, a process that may take millions of years. Therefore, a human being must be responsible. He must take advantage of the rare opportunity of human life by understanding his relationship with God and act accordingly. Then he can get out of the cycle of birth and death in different forms of life and go back home, back to Godhead.
Do you think transcendental meditation is helping people?
They do not know what real meditation is. Their meditation is simply a farce, another cheating process by the so-called swamis and yogis. You are asking me if meditation is helping people, but do you know what meditation is?
A stilling of the mind, trying to sit in the center without swinging either way.
And what is the center?
I do not know.
So everyone is talking very much about meditation, but no one knows what meditation actually is. These bluffers use the word meditation, but they do not know the proper subject for meditation. They are simply talking bogus propaganda.
Isn't meditation valuable just to get people thinking right?
No, real meditation means to achieve a state in which the mind is saturated with God consciousness. But if you do not know what God is, how can you meditate? Besides, in this age, people's minds are so agitated that they cannot concentrate. I have seen this so called meditation, they are simply sleeping and snoring. Unfortunately, in the name of God consciousness or self realization, many bluffers are presenting non standard methods of meditation without referring to the authorized books of Vedic knowledge. They are simply practicing another type of exploitation.
मैं
What
बताऊं
about
वैसे, बस एक शेयर करना था। मैं पहले ओशो जाया करता था बॉम्बे में, तो प्रभुपाद जी सही कह रहे हैं, वहाँ नींद आ जाती थी। मतलब मेडिटेशन के लिए बोलते थे कुछ, तो वहाँ एक्चुअली नींद आ जाती थी। लिटा के आंख बंद करके कुछ कुछ करने के लिए बोलते थे। और फिर मेरा छोटा भाई गया था आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग में, तो उसका भी एक्सपीरियंस था कि वहाँ नींद बहुत अच्छी आती है। ये बात है।
हाँ जी प्रभु जी, इतनी शांति होती है, ऐसा लगता है सो ही जाओ।
हाँ, मतलब जो ये बोलते हैं ना कि आंख बंद करके थोड़ा सा अपने नाक के बारे में सोचो तो वो एकदम से नींद आ जाती है तुरंत।
तो मैंने तो ना ये एक्सपीरियंस किया ऐसे कि हमारे ऑफिस में हुआ था एक बार योगा सेशन। तो लिटरली वहां से ना जो मेरे मैनेजर थे उन्होंने भी अटेंड किया था, तो उनके तो मुझे मतलब स्नोर की आवाज भी आ रही थी सबको ना, वो तो खराटे लेना शुरू कर दिया था उन्होंने।
हम लोगों का स्लीपिंग का एक्सपीरियंस था, अभी स्नोरिंग का भी आ गया आपके माध्यम से। Okay, Mataji, please proceed.
Some of the other teachers like Ospenkensi and Gurdjieff, in the past, they brought to the West a message similar to yours.
We would have a study where we would have to study the particulars of their teachings to know whether they meet the Vedic standard. God consciousness is a science, just like medical science or any other science. It cannot be different because it is spoken by different men. 2 plus 2 equals 4 everywhere, never 5 or 3. That is science.
Do you feel that others may have possibly taught the genuine method of God consciousness?
Unless I studied their teachings in detail, it would be very difficult to say. There are so many bluffers.
Just doing it for money.
That's all. They have no standard method. Therefore, we are presenting the Bhagavad Gita as it is, without any personal interpretation. This is standard.
Yes, if you begin dressing things up, you inevitably change them.
Krishna consciousness is not a new process. It is very, very old and standard. It cannot be changed. As soon as you try to change it, then the potency is lost. This potency is just like electricity. If you want to generate electricity, you must follow the standard regulations arranging all the negative and positive poles properly. You cannot construct the generator whimsically and still produce electricity. Similarly, there is a standard method for understanding Krishna conscious philosophy from proper authorities. If we follow their instructions, then the process will act. Unfortunately, one of the dangerous diseases of modern man is that everyone wants to do things according to his own whims. No one wants to follow the standard way. Therefore, everyone is failing, both spiritually and materially.
Is the Krishna consciousness movement growing?
Oh, yes, very much. You may be surprised to know that you may be surprised to know that we are selling books in the tens of thousands. We have about 50 books, and many librarians and college professors are very appreciative of them because until their publication, there was no such literature in existence. It is a new contribution to the world.
Krishna consciousness seems to involve shaving the head and wearing saffron robes. How can an ordinary man caught up in family life practice Krishna consciousness?
The saffron robes and the shaven head are not essential, although they create a good mental situation. Just as when a military man is dressed properly, he gets energy. He feels like a military man. Does that mean that unless he is in a uniform, he cannot fight? No. In the same way, God consciousness cannot be checked. It can be revived in any circumstances, but certain conditions are helpful. Therefore, we prescribe that you live in a certain way, dress in a certain way, eat in a certain way, and so on. These things are helpful for practicing Krishna consciousness, but they are not essential.
Then one can be a student of Krishna consciousness while going about normal daily life.
Yes.
How about drugs? Can they help in the process of God realization?
ये कितना बड़ा बदमाश है वहीं आ गया घूम के
If drugs could help God realization, then drugs would be more powerful than God. How can we accept that? Drugs are chemical substances which are material. How can something material help one realize God, who is all spiritual? It is impossible. What one experiences from taking drugs is simply a kind of intoxication or hallucination. It is not God realization.
Do you think the great mystics down through the ages have actually seen the spiritual spark you mentioned earlier?
What do you mean by mystic?
It's just a name given to people who have had an experience of another level of reality. Reality.
कहीं और लेके जा रहा है मतलब डिस्कशन को वो तो प्रभात वापस उसे वहीं पे लेके आ रहे हैं हम देखो
We don't use the word mystic. Our reality is God realization, which occurs when we come to the spiritual platform. As long as we have a bodily concept of life, our understanding is sense gratification because the body is made of senses. When we progress from the bodily platform and we see the mind as the center of sense activity, we take the mind as the final stage of realization. That is the mental platform. From the mental platform, we may come to the intellectual platform, and from the intellectual platform, we can rise to the transcendental platform. Finally, we can rise above even the transcendental platform and come to the mature spiritual platform. These are the stages of God realization. However, in this age, because people are so fallen, the Shastras, scriptures, give the special recommendation that people come directly to the spiritual platform by chanting the holy names of God, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we cultivate this practice on the spiritual platform, then immediately we can realize our spiritual identity. Then the process of God realization becomes successful very quickly.
Prabhuji, can we switch? It's already 8:15. Other also can read.
Oh, okay, sure. Swati can become Srila Prabhupada and would like to go with a questionnaire. कौन जाना चाहेगा? मतलब आप जाना चाहेंगे?
Yes, no issues.
Okay, bhai, please.
Today, a lot of people are saying that we must look inward for the truth rather than outward into the world of senses.
Looking inward means knowing that you are a spirit soul. Unless you understand that you are not the body but a soul, there is no question of looking inward. First, we have to study, am I this body or am I something within this body? Unfortunately, this subject is not taught in any school, college, or university. Everyone is thinking, I am this body. For example, in this country, people everywhere are thinking, I am South African, they are Indian, they are Greek, and so on. Actually, everyone in the whole world is in the bodily conception of life. Krishna consciousness starts when one is above this bodily conception.
So the recognition, so the recognition of the spiritual spark comes first.
Yes, recognizing the existence of the spirit soul within the body is the first step. Unless one understands the simple fact, there is no question of spiritual advancement.
Is it a question of just understanding it intellectually?
In the beginning, yes, there are two departments of the knowledge, theoretical and practical. First, one must learn spiritual science theoretically, then, by working on that spiritual platform, one comes to the point of practical realization. Unfortunately, today almost everyone is in the darkness of bodily conception of life. Therefore, this movement is very important because it can lift civilized men out of that darkness. As long as they are in the bodily conception of life, they are no better than animals. I am a dog, I am a cat, I am a cow. Animals think like this. As soon as someone passes, a dog will bark, thinking, I am a dog. I have been appointed here as watchdog. Similarly, if I adopt the dog's mentality and challenge foreigners, why have you come to this country? Why have you come to my jurisdiction? Then what is the difference between the dog and me?
There is none. To change the subject a little, is it necessary to follow certain eating habits to practice spiritual life?
Yes, the whole process is meant to purify us, and eating is part of that purification. I think you have a saying, you are what you eat, and that's a fact. Our bodily constitution and mental atmosphere are determined according to the how and what we eat. Therefore, the Shastras recommend that to become Krishna conscious, you should eat remnants of food left by Krishna. If a tuberculosis patient eats something and you eat the remnants, you will be infected with tuberculosis. Similarly, if you eat Krishna Prasad, then you will be infected with Krishna consciousness. Thus, our process is that we don't eat anything immediately. First, we offer the food to Krishna, then we eat it. This helps us advance in Krishna consciousness.
You are all vegetarians.
Yes, because Krishna is a vegetarian. Krishna can eat anything because he is God. But in the Bhagavad Gita 9.26, he says, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. He never says, give me meat and wine.
How about the tobacco question?
अब डिटेल
Tobacco
में
is
पूछ रहा
also
है, चटनी भी पूछ ले.
Tobacco is also an intoxicant. We are already intoxicated by being in the bodily conception of life, and if we increase the intoxication, then we are lost.
You mean things like meat, alcohol, and tobacco just reinforce bodily consciousness?
Yes, suppose you have a disease and you want to be cured, you have to follow the instructions of a physician. If he says, don't eat this, eat only this, you have to follow this prescription. Similarly, we also have a prescription for being cured of the bodily conception of life, chanting Hare Krishna, hearing about Krishna's activities, and eating Krishna Prasada. This treatment is a process of Krishna consciousness.
Okay, so moving to the next. Yes, Rosie.
Okay, finding the cure for today's social ills. Crime, why and what to do. In this July 1975 interview, Chicago Police Department Media Relations man, Lieutenant David Mose, asked about curbing the upward spiraling US crime rate. Srila Prabhupada replies, if human beings are not given the facility to learn about God, then they remain on the level of cats and dogs. You cannot have peace in a society of cats and dogs. The thief and the murderer already know the law, yet they still commit violent crimes due to their unclean hearts. So our cleans the heart. Okay.
Again.
नैन पूरी अवेलेबल है क्या पढ़ने के लिए?
हाँ प्रभु जी, क्या पढ़ना है?
तो
मैं
आप
तो
श्रीला
डिस्कशन सुन रहा था, खो गया था मैं।
अच्छा, आप श्रीला प्रभुपाद और मैं लेफ्टिनेंट मोसे।
अरे प्रभु जी, उल्टा कर लेते हैं।
नहीं, यही ठीक रहेगा।
The difference between a pious man and a criminal is
नहीं,
that
अभी लेफ्टिनेंट मोसे को बोलना है केवल।
okay.
ठीक है। So I understand you have some ideas that could help us in our efforts to prevent crime. I would be very interested to hear them.
The difference between a pious man and a criminal is that one is pure in heart and the other is dirty. This dirt is like a disease in the form of uncontrollable lust and greed in the heart of the criminal. Today, people in general are in the diseased condition, and thus crime is very widespread. When the people become purified of these dirty things, crime will disappear. The simplest process of purification is to assemble in congregation and chant the holy names of God. This is called Sankirtana and is the basis of our Krishna consciousness movement. So, if you want to stop crime, then you must gather as many people as possible for mass Sankirtana. This congregational chanting of the holy name of God will dissipate all the dirty things in everyone's heart. Then there will be no more crime.
Do you have any feelings about crime here in the United States as opposed to the crime in your own country of India?
What is your definition of crime?
Any trampling on the rights of one person by another person?
Yes, our definition is the same. In the Upanishads, it is said, Ishvashyam idam sarvam. Everything belongs to God. So everyone has the right to utilize whatever is allotted to him by God. But one may not encroach upon others' property. If one does so, he becomes a criminal. Actually, the first crime is that you Americans are thinking this land of America is yours. Although 200 years ago it was not yours. You have come from other part of the world and claimed it as your land. Actually, it is God's land and therefore it belongs to everyone. Since everyone is a child of God, but the vast majority of people have no conception of God. Practically speaking, everyone is godless. Therefore, they should be educated to love God. In America, your government has a slogan, "In God we trust." Is that correct?
Yes.
But where is the education about God? To trust is very good, but simple trust will not endure unless it is backed up with scientific knowledge of God. One may know that he has a father, but unless he knows who his father is, his knowledge is imperfect, and that education is the science of God is lacking.
Do you feel that it is lacking only here in the United States?
No, everywhere. The age we live is called Kali Yuga, the age of forgetting God. It is an age of misunderstanding, quarrel, and the people's hearts are filled with dirty things. But God is so powerful that if we chant His holy name and become purified, just as many disciples have become purified of their bad habits. Our movement is based on this principle of chanting the holy name of God. We give everyone the opportunity without any distinction. They can come to our temple, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, take a little prasad as refreshment. Can you scroll?
Yes.
Thank you. Refreshment and gradually become purified. So if the governmental authorities gives us some facilities, then we can hold mass Sankirtana. Then without a doubt, the whole society will change.
If I understand you correctly, sir, you are saying that we should emphasize a return to religious principles.
Certainly, without religious principles, what is the difference between a dog and a man? Man can understand religion, but a dog cannot. That is the difference. So if human society remains on the level of dogs and cats, how can you expect a peaceful society? If you bring a dozen dogs and put them together in a room, will it be possible to keep them peaceful? Similarly, if human society is filled with men whose mentality is on the level of dogs, how can you expect peace?
If some of my questions sound disrespectful, it is only because I do not completely understand your religious beliefs. I mean, no disrespect whatsoever.
No, it is not a question of my religious beliefs. I am simply pointing out the distinction between human life and animal life. Animals cannot possibly learn anything about God, but human beings can. However, if human beings are not given the facility to learn about God, then they remain on the level of cats and dogs. You cannot have peace in the society of cats and dogs. Therefore, it is the duty of the governmental authorities to see that people are taught how to become God conscious. Otherwise, there will be trouble, because without God consciousness, there is no difference between a dog and a man. The dog eats, we eat. The dog sleeps, we sleep. A dog has sex, we have sex. A dog tries to defend itself, and we also try to defend ourselves. These are the common factors. The only difference is that a dog cannot be instructed about his uh, relationship with God, but a man can.
Wouldn't peace be a precursor to a return to religion? Must we not first have peace?
No. This is the difficulty. At the present moment, no one actually knows the meaning of religion. Religion means to abide by the laws of God, just as good citizenship means to abide by the laws of the government. Because no one has any understanding of God, no one knows the laws of God or the meaning of religion. This is the present. This is the present state of people in today's society. They are forgetting religion, taking it to be a kind of faith. Faith may be blind faith. Faith is not the real description of religion. Religion means the laws given by God. And anyone who follows those laws is religious, whether a Christian, a Hindu, or a Muslim.
With all due respect, isn't it true that in India, where religious customs have been followed for centuries upon centuries, we are seeing not a return to but a drawing away from spiritual life?
Yes, but it is due only to bad leadership. Otherwise, the vast majority of the Indian people are fully conscious of God and they try to follow the laws of God. Here in the West, even big college professors do not believe in God or in life after death. But in India, even the poorest man believes in God and in the next life. He knows that if he commits sins, he will suffer, and if he acts piously, he will enjoy. To this day, if there is a disagreement between two religions, they will go to the temple to settle it, because everyone knows that the opposite party will hesitate to speak lies before the deities. So, in most respects, India is still 80% religious. That is the special privilege of taking birth in India, and the special responsibility also. Srimad Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, भारत भूमिते भारत भूमिते हाइला मनुष्य जन्म यारा जन्म सार्थक कौरी कर पर उपकारा. Anyone who has taken birth in India should make his life perfect by becoming Krishna conscious. Then he should distribute Krishna consciousness all over the world.
Sir, there is a Christian parable that says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to come before the throne of God. Do you think the wealth of the United States and other Western countries is a block to spiritual faith?
Sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
Gusto जी, ये समझ नहीं आया.
वो मतलब यही कहना चाह रहा है कि अच्छा वो सेइंग जो है क्रिश्चियनिटी वो है क्या?
Yes. Camel to go through the eye of needle.
तो ये तो इजी है, बट वो कह रहे हैं कि फिर हाँ मतलब देन अ रिच मैन टू कम बिफोर द अच्छा ये जो लाइन क्रिश्चियनिटी में है.
Yes.
इसको पूछ रहा ना?
Yes.
हाँ मतलब वही है कि अमीर आदमी को आप भगवान के पास लाओगे और एक सुई को किसी कैमल की आंख में घुसाना, कैमल की आंख में घुसाना भी अपने में बड़ा टास्क है ना, क्योंकि वो काफी ऊंचा होता है. तो कह रहे हैं कि
नहीं वो जी ऐसा नहीं है. ये ऐसा है, उसका कहावत का मतलब ये है कि सुई के छेद से ऊंट निकल सकता है, लेकिन एक पैसे वाले को भगवान के पास लाना वो बहुत बड़ी बात है.
हाँ राइट आई ऑफ द निडल बोला ना. ओके मुझे लगा कि आई ऑफ द कैमल बोल रहे हैं.
Yes.
तो ये मतलब सुई से आप कैमल निकाल सकते हो, बट रिच मैन को तो उस कंटेक्स्ट में फिर वो आगे पूछ रहा है कि भाई वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में को आप कैसे देखते हो, लेकिन इतना वेल्थ है उनके पास, वो ब्लॉक करेगी उनके स्पिरिचुअल फेथ के लिए. तो बोले यस.
Too much wealth is a block. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 244, Bhoga Aishwarya Prashatana Taya Pratha Chetasam Vyavsayatmika Buddhi Samadhau na Vidyate. If one is materially very opulent, he forgets God. Therefore, too much material wealth is a disqualification for understanding God. Although there is no absolute law that only the poor man can understand, God generally, if one is extraordinarily rich, His only ambition is to acquire money, and it is difficult for him to understand spiritual teachings.
भागवतम में आता है कि जिसके पास बहुत पैसा है और वो वाइन वुमेन से अगर बचा हुआ है और भगवान की भक्ति कर रहा है, तो भगवान विष्णु कह रहे हैं उसमें मेरी बहुत बड़ी कृपा है। सोच रहे हो, मतलब ये इतना बड़ा मटेरियली वेल्थी होना, ये कितना बड़ा रिस्क है कि आप भगवान को भूल जाओगे फिर। और अगर कोई भूला हुआ नहीं है, भगवान की भक्ति में लगा हुआ है, तो भगवान विष्णु कह रहे हैं नारद जी से कि आप उस पर मेरी बहुत बड़ी कृपा मानो, क्योंकि ऐसा तो पॉसिबल है ही नहीं कि वो बच जाता। माया इतनी स्ट्रॉन्ग है और माया में झूल रहा है, वो वेल्थ इतनी ज्यादा उसके पास, फिर भी वो बचा हुआ है, इसका मतलब उस पर मेरी कृपा है उसके ऊपर। टाइम हो गया मुझे, रोकना है यहाँ पे।
यस प्रभु जी। हाँ यस 8:31।
ओके प्रभु जी। मेरा तो आज नाइट जागरण है, डिप्लॉयमेंट है।
फिर भी सुबह उठ के जाना है हम लोगों को मंगल आरती।
हरि बोल, आपकी कृपा हो गई। यस।
Okay, we'll stop here. Anyone wants to share anything or discuss anything? Okay, yes sir.
प्रभु जी जैसे
just saying, मतलब yeah Udit Prabhu.
नहीं यस माता जी प्लीज।
I was just saying, मतलब कन्वर्सेशन ऐसे पढ़ रहे हैं ना, तो मतलब खुद भी अपनी भी कुछ चीजें क्लियर हो जाती हैं कि क्वेश्चंस भी ऐसे पूछ रहे हैं ना, तो मतलब इस टाइप का कन्वर्सेशन मुझे तो अच्छा लग रहा है, जैसे वो पूछ रहे हैं और फिर प्रभुपाद जी आंसर कर रहे हैं, तो अपने लिए भी अच्छा है समझने के लिए।
परफेक्ट क्वेश्चन पढ़ ली क्या आप लोगों ने? मेरे को शायद मिस परफेक्ट क्वेश्चन और परफेक्ट आंसर्स।
हाँ पढ़ लिया था,
पढ़ लिया क्या ऑलरेडी? ओके अच्छा, आई थिंक आई मिस्ड दैट कंप्लीटली।
नहीं प्रभु जी, परफेक्ट क्वेश्चन परफेक्ट आंसर नहीं पढ़ा प्रभु जी।
अभी नहीं हुआ है
वो यस प्रभु जी, वो स्किप कर दी थी बुक।
अच्छा सेकंड से शुरू किया था ना, आप ये सोच के कि भाई परफेक्ट क्वेश्चन पढ़ा हुआ है ना।
यस प्रभु जी।
अच्छा
ओके, आफ्टर दिस वन विल टेक दैट वन। या
ले सकते हैं।
हाँ, उसमें पूरा वो प्रभुपाद और वो जो ऑथर है उनका नाम भूल गया मैं, बॉब कोहान है उनका, स्पेशल नेम याद नहीं है मेरे को। वो अपाचुआ में ही रहते हैं, मिला हूं उनसे। तो बेसिकली इट्स अ कन्वर्सेशन बिटवीन हिम एंड प्रभुपाद।
Oh, is still there, huh?
Yeah, he is still there. वो अपने कलाकंता प्रभु जी के is very close friend, और he is also board of director in a Krishna house.
Wow, okay.
ब्रह्म तीर्थ प्रभु, now I remember, ब्रह्म तीर्थ प्रभु। Yes.
अच्छा
जय।
ओके,
ऑलरेडी क्वेश्चन आंसर के माध्यम से सुनते हैं तो दिमाग में ज्यादा अच्छे से बैठ पाता है।
जी।
ओके, ये सुदेत रहो।
बस कुछ नहीं प्रभु जी, बस हो गया, ऐसा कुछ नहीं था इम्पोर्टेंट, हो गया।
ओके, वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील प्रभुपाद की
जय। Jai. Thank you for joining everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Jai Srila Prabhupada.